Teaching the Gamers Summer Circuit. Once again, I'm TJ, joined by Chalky, and we're flipping switches here. We're going from the EU qualifier, and we're going right over to the NA qualifier, number 7. Both of these took place yesterday, right after each other. And the 4 players competing in this are going to be Hotform, Silentstorm, Pesty Cakes, or Pesty, and LBYS. So this is a pretty star-studded lineup as well.
Yeah, I mean, Hotform has been in these before. We've seen him climb through these open brackets time after time again, among finishing at the top of Legend multiple times. Silentstorm, I mean, don't really have to say much for him. Finishes top Legend a bunch. Won Hearthstone Legendary Series Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got LBYS. We saw him just maybe like a week ago. Made the top 4 of one of these, so repeat performances from him. And Pesty, very known UK player, has won a lot of open tournaments, qualified for the Assembly tournament recently, placed in the top 16 there, so not really the result he was looking to get, but still finished better than half the people there, qualified from the open brackets. I mean, all 4 of these guys you can really look at and say, not surprised to see them here.
Yeah.
So I'm, pretty star-studded lineup, like you said. We'll have to see who comes out on top.
I'm definitely rooting for Pesty.
Rooting for Pesty, because why is that, TJ? Tell us.
I did manage to finish top 8 in the qualifier yesterday. I was very close to qualifying for the feature matchup today, where you would have had a different casting partner for this one, or for the final qualifier today. But Pesty took me out in the round of 8. So if he wins, it would sort of just justify my losing,
Would it mend the wound?
It would definitely mend the wound.
I guess in that aspect, I should be cheering for Silentstorm then, because he took me out not once but twice in the Hearthstone Legendary Series.
Yep.
Tends to be my kryptonite, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
On ladder, I do fine against him, but in tournaments, man, I can't beat him. And he's one of those players, kind of looking at the lineups here, he brings Paladin a lot. And you might think, like, oh yeah, aggro Paladin, players are doing really well with that recently. I would not be surprised at all if that were mid-range Paladin, TJ.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Paladin, mid-range Paladin, people are saying it's starting to make a little bit of a comeback now. Paladin in general is in a decent spot right now because aggro Paladin, by many people, is considered one of the best decks, at least for laddering.
Mm-hmm.
Not a little bit weaker in tournament play, obviously, because people know...
Patron Warrior.
Yeah. Yep. And Hotform, on the other hand, he's bringing Mage, and I know that it is a freeze Mage. So he had some long games yesterday. His line of matches, like his part of the bracket, was the last to finish yesterday, just because everybody on his side was playing a little bit slower decks. So we'll have to see.
I love freeze Mage, and I specifically, I think Patron versus freeze Mage is a matchup that's really awesome. It's really slow sometimes, but there's so many different ways to play it, and it can come down to very, very close fatigue battles where it's like, oh no, I lost by 1 turn or 1 damage, and when you win as the freeze Mage, it's very satisfying. In this case, we're going to see Druid versus freeze Mage, which might be a little more linear. Still a very difficult matchup for the freeze Mage, and I think Hotform maybe might struggle to get a win with this freeze Mage, though. If he lines it up into Druid, or not Druid, but Paladin, that's a pretty solid matchup for him.
Druid, one of the only classes that can go above 30 health.
Yeah, I feel like it's usually not a huge issue because not only is it only 1 armor per hero power, but it's which is easily counteracted by your ping from your hero power. But it's one of those things where the Druid doesn't really have the easiest time weaving in hero powers. They want to just play on curve.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest deals in this matchup is if the Druid draws into enough card draw, and if the Mage can really run them out of things and stay at a nice health total, because combo is one of those things. You can't freeze the cards in your opponent's hand, right? Like, you're not going to be able to stop the combo as the Mage player. There is no way in your deck. They don't play Lotheb. They don't play much. They play some armor gain with Ice Barrier, maybe some health gain with Healbot and Alexstrasza. So it can get to be a very awkward matchup for the freeze Mage to stay alive in the late game.
Yeah. Another thing, no, I believe Silentstorm is actually #1 legend on the NA ladder right now. At least he was last night and this morning when I checked, unless someone's passed him. So he's been playing.
Yeah.
He's actually a really young player. I think he's still in high school or maybe just finished.
Mhm.
He's been playing a lot of Hearthstone recently. He's almost always online, and as soon as he loses his #1 spot, he spams games until he gets it back. And
Yep.
so getting ahead of the curve, yeah, he's still #1.
And I believe, from what I've heard from players, he got #1 with this Druid deck. He's one of the players that will ladder with Druid a lot, sometimes with pretty strange lists. But this is the deck, if I'm not mistaken, that he would have gotten #1 with. Maybe change some tech cards, but the concept still remains.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting stuff here for Hotform. He has to deal with not the biggest threat ever, but an interesting threat at that. I almost wouldn't have minded, and still wouldn't mind, a Doomsayer here. You very rarely get great turns to do it, and the Druid does have a counter to it in the form of Keeper of the Grove, so you can't really go all in on it like you can against decks like Zoo. So at one point this game, he's going to have to play out a Doomsayer and hope, okay, I don't hope they don't have Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah.
And generally, the earlier you do that, the better.
So what's funny is that these two players have such differing play styles. They're polar opposites. Hotform is a very thorough, like precise. I'm trying to find the word. Just I guess thorough is the right word. You can tell that he's keeping track of his opponent's cards. He's looking towards if he loses, knowing his opponent's decks or if he wins, knowing his opponent's decks for the future. Really keeping track of my cards. Whereas Silentstorm is a very instinctive player. He plays very quickly. It's rare that he takes super long times to think out his turns, and a lot of times he'll just throw out his cards on a whim. He plays pretty much purely by instinct, and it works out for him. Usually he makes the right plays, even though he does play super fast. And it's crazy because sometimes he plays so fast, I'm like, there's no way he thought about that turn, but he still manages to find wins. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and so going back to kind of the Doomsayer thing, I feel like Hotform spaced this out really well for himself. He got a turn where he forced Silentstorm to use a piece of the combo awkwardly. It just so happened he didn't have Wrath, Swipe, or anything like that. And now he got a reduction on Blood Mage and Blizzard, so he's going to be able to kill off these Shades as they come down. And things, I think, are just going to work out pretty decently for him in the mid-game here. Silentstorm's really going to need to pick up, like, Ancient Allure to draw. A lot of players kind of going back to the old way this matchup played out, you would think, okay, you need to hold on to Ancient Allure to heal yourself after they Alex you, but you really just needed to draw now just to keep up.
Yeah.
Present out enough threats. I am a little surprised Hotform pulled the trigger on this Blizzard so quickly. He could have gone for, like, Ice Barrier, Arcane and Elect Ping, cycled through more of his decks, set up a Secret. It felt like a board he didn't really need a Blizzard quite yet, but just goes ahead and does it. And this way, I mean, with the Emperor off the top now, he's going to have a lot easier of a time fitting in this Fireball into his curve.
Yeah. Sylvanas can be a little bit of a tough card to use in this matchup.
Yeah.
Because you can always Fireball it, kill it to steal a Doomsayer. You can guarantee a Doomsayer being procced off that way. So you can use it once both Doomsayers are gone, or if you're confident that your opponent doesn't have a way to kill the Sylvanas to give you a Doomsayer to proc it instantly on your next turn. But he's holding on for so long because, one, he hasn't really had a good opportunity to play, and two, he's just scared that eventually it's going to come back to bite him.
It also appears I've spoken too soon on Freeze Mage not having any ways to stop the combo. Hotform has actually teched in Loatheb. It's not a card that really goes along with your natural strategy, but it is a card that can help you play defensively or even offensively. Very flexible card in the late game. But it's not a card in Freeze Mage that you're going to just slam down on 5 and use it to push forward your tempo.
Yeah.
Freeze Mage not really a great tempo-oriented deck. You're mostly playing for the late game, playing a very control-y game.
Hotform going to go for the cycle here. Does have the option of Frost Nova if he thinks that there's too much damage. Finds second Doomsayer.
And like you said, this Doomsayer quite a bit better than the last one because if he picks up like a fireball, he can fireball Sylvanas, get it to take a Doomsayer, and that will guaranteed wipe Silentstorm's board. But there is the Ancient Lord that he needed to kind of keep the pressure going here.
Mm-hmm.
He could choose not to play it this turn, get the silence down on the Acolyte, and develop a Druid of the Claw. Really kind of weighing his options there.
See what he gets. Okay. He's going to proc the first Ice Barrier here. It still just feels like he hasn't really applied much pressure yet.
Yeah, I mean, Hotform's sitting at over 30 health. Really not where you want him to be as the Druid on turn 9, but he does have a pretty nice board out there.
No AoEs here, though. I mean, you could Frost Nova Doomsayer, but then a Keeper would come out.
Well, Keeper, Force of Nature, there's just too much stuff for Hotform here to think about. Like, you can't really go all in on that Doomsayer this late in the game. It's very, very guaranteed going to get cleared almost. So, even like Druid of the Claw swipe kills it and develops the Druid of the Claw. There's just, even just looking at Silentstorm's hand, there's so much, but in his deck, there's all these answers to it. You basically have to save that Doomsayer to maybe abuse the Sylvanas with. It's unfortunate he doesn't have a Fireball.
He had to use one early on in the game, so he's probably going to have to get some with a little bit of value out of this Archmage Antonidas as this game progresses.
Yeah, and Hotform wasn't really able to get away with playing one secret and pinging his Acolyte, which seems like it would have been much stronger. Because there's 14 on the board, 14 from combo. That's 28, plus the 6 is already 34, so you're already looking at him popping the block. And can't really play too offensively at this point.
Yeah. And Silentstorm realizes that even if Doomsayer does come down, he still has a way to deal with it from hand with Druid of the Claw swipe or Force of Nature. So he uses Keeper to deny the draw from Acolyte, which could end up being a big deal because Hotform was probably expecting to get at least 1 from that. But now he gets 0, and Silentstorm is threatening combo.
Well, there's the Fireball. So he can guaranteed wipe Silentstorm's board with that Doomsayer.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, Silentstorm will have a decent reload, but it's not a huge one. And then it's going to open up things like Archmage, Antonidas plus Frost Nova. And wow, he's actually just going to do that first.
That's bold, because now all of a sudden he doesn't guarantee steal on the Sylvanas. Sylvanas might steal the Archmage.
Yeah, it is tough for Silentstorm to get that steal to happen. He would need like Wrath plus Keeper, which he's already seen one of each.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be awkward. He's gonna have to combo this turn, I suppose. But then you're basically looking to the exact same scenario. It's just kind of Hotform flipped the order in which he did it.
Yeah.
He could have gone for the clear last turn, then Silentstorm reloads, and then he goes for the clear. Looks like he's gonna hold on to Savage Roar though. So that is the second copy of Savage Roar. He still has 1 copy of Force Nature left. Now it's 2 Hotforms.
Hotformception.
Well, kind of back to the same situation. He has that guaranteed clear anytime he wants. He can go for Frost Nova first, I suppose. You do run a little risk of Silentstorm top decking Lotheb then. Like you said, very methodical player Hotform is, and I'm sure he's considering all these things, and it is a very difficult thing to sequence out. You have to consider what is the best order for all of this, because he's a long ways off winning this game.
Yeah. Looks like he is going to go for the clear here.
Yep.
Will he have enough damage to finish the game?
Yeah, I think he will with Pyroblast and things, but it's mostly a concern of can he stabilize. will Silentstorm run out of stuff? Which if Silentstorm picks up like an Azure Drake or another Ancient Allure, I don't think so. Dr. Mim's pretty nice, but it doesn't pick up any extra cards.
Yeah. Frostbolt, there's more damage.
Yeah, maybe that'd be nice if he had the Alexstrasza to start going for it, but yeah, he's really lacking that. He can't go for a damage plan. He has to go for somehow control the board. Maybe he can top deck Alexstrasza next turn. That'd be very good for him.
Yeah, that would, because then he could almost guarantee that he could have lethal over the next couple turns with how much damage he has. But, Ancient of Lore could be a pretty big deal. Especially since Silentstorm's seen a lot of damage, he might just pocket this one for the heal later on.
For the heal. You set up a taunt right now. You put out the Shredder. And then you're pretty safe against the Alex plan. You're pretty safe against board clear. I mean, it's looking pretty good for Silentstorm, despite Hotform having a bunch of ways to keep himself in the game. There's the Alexstrasza, and I mean, I feel like you have to go for that.
Yeah,
that's the plan you've been given. There's nothing else here.
So next turn, Silentstorm can pop the block and heal up back to effectively he'd be at 21 health, because there's no way for Hotform to peel off this armor. And I think that with the Savage Roar, Silentstorm can not only pop the block, but also kill the Alexstrasza, depending on where the boom busts land.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be maybe a tiny bit of RNG needed, but almost all the boom bot places they could land are fine. And we have seen both Frost Novas out of Hotform, so there's no like heal bot Frost Nova next turn to maybe save him.
Yeah.
Plus, there is a Keeper of the Grove anyway. Silence off the Dr. Boom if it was frozen. So here we go. Starts with the Savage Roar. Is going to distribute this damage in a way where it puts his opponent to 1. Now he just needs maybe a bomb hit. And there's the bomb hit, so there goes the ice block. And he's going to heal up, like you said.
And he's just going to leave the bomb there, so that way, if there is a board clear...
Yeah, and I mean...
he risks dying. I don't know, he can anti-heal bot, but then he does nothing.
It's not over. He can double freeze and heal bot, but then the Keeper of the Grove would end it by silencing one of the frozen targets.
Yeah.
So, looks like that's going to be it.
Wow.
Goes with Fireball first. Then Healbot. He can then trade an Ice Lance. Yep, and the Silence will still do it. Oh, he actually goes face. So, realizing he needs that extra damage.
Yeah.
But the Silence gets him there.
Alright, well, Silentstorm is going to take game number 1. A little bit of a long game there. Hotform, I mean, felt like he played it well. Just, Druid is one of the tougher matchups. They have a lot of damage from hand. They can pull a lot of damage from nothing. They can threaten popping your block a lot earlier than other classes can.
Yeah, I mean, I think he sequences things in a decent enough order. Maybe flipping the order he did the Archmage Frost Nova and the Doomsayer Fireball. I mean, he definitely had a plan in mind by going with the Archmage first, maybe hoping Silentstorm just couldn't clear it. But that didn't happen. He drew the Alex a little late. He might have had a window of opportunity that game, and it just didn't really come.
Yeah. Well, Silentstorm still has Paladin and Warlock remaining, so Hotform still should have a pretty decent time getting a win with Freeze Mage.
Yep. It was interesting to note, Silentstorm does not bring Patron Warrior to tournaments.
Rarely ever.
Yeah, one of the few players that still decides not to. And that, I think, works pretty well in Hotform's favor here. We can see he does have some anti-weapon tech, but Patron's always going to be one of those matchups that you feel bad about if your Freeze Mage lines up into that.
Yeah. So Silentstorm's going to throw out the Warlock, and Hotform is going to throw out the Druid, so decides to bench the Freeze Mage for the time being.
Yep. And, I mean, you got to look at this as a pretty nice matchup for Hotform. It's handlocking a Druid. We have seen this a few times today, and it's gone both ways. We saw Logan get very, very close to winning it, but was just always one off. And his opponent was able to come back and win.
All right. Hotform really deciding on what he wants to mulligan away.
Yeah. Just waiting on those.
Throws it all. Picks up an Innervate. No
Hey.
Wild Growth.
Well, Innervate is one of those cards that not as big of a deal against Handlock. Like, you can Innervate out a Shredder on turn 2, but they'll just Dark Bomb it.
Yep.
It's not like they're planning to do much else besides tap anyway. It mostly needs to pick up those Keepers and Big Game Hunter. But very interesting line from Silentstorm. He's just going to coin out Ancient Watcher. And he doesn't have an Owl. He's got a Sun Fury. So he's going for a much more aggressive line than players normally do.
I might dissuade Hotform from making an early Innervate play, though.
Yeah.
He's thinking, if he coined out an Ancient Watcher, what is he going to follow this thing up with?
Yeah. I mean, Owl and Sun Fury are the obvious options. So,
Yeah.
the Owls, I guess he's beating you up, but it's rare that the Handlock gets ahead that early. And yeah, Silentstorm just going to follow it up with the tap. So just a very aggressive Ancient Watcher for now.
And Innervate is going to come out this turn for the Azure Drake. Saving it till now allows him to curve out better, because next turn he can play the Paladin Shredder, whereas if he had Innervate out of the Paladin Shredder, he would have had to top deck a Shade to have anything to play on this turn.
Yeah, but Silentstorm can remove this pretty easily.
Yep. Emperor Thorsan. And Hotform picks up his own here. It's going to be pretty good for him. He does have one piece of the combo available once he throws down Thorsan. No Keeper available yet for Twilight Drake.
Yeah, he might end up just swiping it. I guess he could also go like Shade Wild Growth, but the Wild Growth isn't really ramping him into anything too relevant. I mean, he has 2 6-drops anyway, so going to 7 mana, not a huge deal.
Could open up future turns for him, especially with Emperor. It's basically like super ramp over the next couple turns.
Yeah, okay, he's going to go for it. So this is kind of a play thinking, like you just said, maybe it's going to be relevant. He doesn't know. He's just thinking, might as well get it out while I can.
So Silentstorm has to make the decision here whether or not he wants to Hellfire or stay on curve and Sludge Belcher. Shade's still going to be within Hellfire range for the next couple turns. So staying on curve seems to be the better plan. The One-Eyed Cheat! Oh no!
One-Eyed Cheat! Pretty good here.
It's fantastic.
Well, he can't Emperor if he wants to clear off that Shade. I almost feel like swiping here is so nice. But then your opponent gets Emperor out, and you can't Emperor again. And it's like, oh no, bad things.
Yeah. Well, you don't really look at the turn 6 as a power turn for Handlocks most of the time.
Yep, he's going to go with Swipe.
So I feel like Swipe is a pretty good choice here. Now,
Oh, well, his Shade is actually going to threaten the Emperor, so it works out okay.
yeah, I suppose. Jockey.
I suppose as well, TJ. He can Emperor and Hero Power to kill off the opposing Emperor. So many Emperors.
And now we're in a situation where all of a sudden Silentstorm doesn't have a way to deal with Hotform's Emperor.
Yep.
Hotform's Emperor not really hitting too many valuable things, but having the Force of Nature be 5 mana opens you up for a little bit of extra room for for things like hero power things.
Yep. This is where tech cards like Acidic Swampu's not what you want too much. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Silentstorm's best option is to ignore that Emperor. He could clear it by using both board clears, but nah. No way you want to go for that. I agree with just Lothab. Protects you from the combo. For now.
And he does have 1 mana, which leaves him enough for Sunfury Protector, but I'm not sure if it's necessary here.
Yeah, I'd hold on to it.
Locking him out from combo anyway.
Yeah, with the double Moltons, with all 3 of them cost reducted, it's really nice to hold on to that Sunfury.
So now we get into the dance.
Yep, here we are, both players. One of them so close, the other also so close, but in a bad way.
Yep.
So now Hotform has to weigh hitting face. He has to weigh what to play, where to go with his damage, how low to take Silentstorm, all that good stuff that we know and love about the Druid versus Handlock matchup.
I feel like this matchup we've seen the most out of any other matchup today. We've seen some Patron mirrors.
Well, there's a lot of Druids, like you mentioned, in this tournament.
6 out of 8 of the 8 players that we've seen today brought Druid. 1 out of 8 brought Rogue. What does the world come to?
A very druidy, naturey place.
Yep.
That's what it's come to. So, Hotform's going to get a very cheap Force of Nature and a 0-cost Wild Growth. And he's threatening quite a bit with this board. It's going to require quite the response from Silentstorm. We went ahead and did not open up those Molten Giants to be played. But with a Hellfire, he can play 1. And with a tap, he could still play 1.
He could Hellfire, Molten Giant, Sun Fury.
Yeah, he can do that.
And then next turn, he can clean up whatever, Molten Giant again, and clean up whatever with a Dark Bomb, Molten Giant again, and then play...
Molten Giant again.
And then Anti-Heal Bot, and then Rag.
Yo, dog, I heard you like Molten Giants.
Yeah, I do.
So I put a Molten Giant on your Molten Giant so you could win the game. There is a little bit of a problem with this Sylvanas from Hotform, though. It's quite threatening.
Well, he can attack into it and then Dark Bomb whatever gets stolen.
Okay, that's true, but if it steals your taunt, you're still sad.
But then you can Molten Giant Anti-Heal Bot and be at a combo range.
Yeah.
It looks like he's going to use Force of Nature and Keeper to deal with it. Yep. Doesn't trust his Sylvanas.
Wow.
And Silentstorm can now rule out the possibility of one of the Force of Natures. Still has not seen one that has been reduced.
Yep. He knows those 2 cards have been reduced twice. So, still has to play around a little bit of stuff. But like you said, I think he'll probably go for that Molten Giant. And he can Heal Bot, he can Argus.
Ooh.
He can do whatever he likes.
If he Heal Bots, he's dead to combo. Oh, nope, Eden Defender. And then Heal Bot next turn.
How would he be dead to combo?
If he had Heal Botted instead.
How? He'd be at 19.
Yeah, with a Hero Power and the Keeper on the board. He wouldn't have been able to trade into the Keeper because he
could Dark Bomb it.
He wouldn't have enough mana for Dark Bomb. Since he
tapped. He would. Look, he had 2 mana left.
Well, he had played the Molten Giant.
Yeah.
In tandem.
No, he used 5 mana versus 5 mana. He could have Dark Bombed.
No, he played the Defender instead of the Heal Bot, which cost 4
but he played the Mortal. He played the Mortal Coil too. TJ, I'm correct.
Okay.
And right now, Twitch chat is saying to sap you. I can feel it.
No. No, they aren't.
Well, yeah, still doesn't trust Sylvanas. Went ahead and cycled that Wrath into a Dr. Boom. And yeah, more taunts. Taunts on taunts with the Maybe a big game hunter thrown in there somewhere. I mean, I feel like Silentstorm is locking this one up.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Hotform to push through.
Even going to silence one of those boombots. Why not? But he left one up. That could be the key boombot. That could be it.
No matter where it goes. Oh, BGH off the top is
That could be the boombot that wins the game.
I still don't think it really matters.
Yeah, it can't. Oh, but it got him. Got that defender virus. He avenged his brother. And, I mean, yeah, Sylvanas going to have to come down. He'll kill off the owl. So there is a little bit of a risk. I mean, I feel like it's going to be maybe Shadow Flame this next turn just to cleanly get rid of Sylvanas. You don't really just want to taunt up Rag. Suppose you could. You could kill off Sylvanas and then taunt up Rag or taunt up Dr. Boom.
Well, he could just trade into the Sylvanas, Dark Bomb the BGH, and then Rag.
And then Rag. Yeah, he could do that. He's got all the options in the world.
Yeah, he could put him to 5, and then Dr. Boom works just as well.
Yeah, I might have liked Rag instead. Like you said, just put him even lower.
Put him at 5.
Yeah. I guess this works too. And Hotform doesn't have much going for him.
He's thinking. He gave the old eyebrow raise.
He's thinking about how
He's
dead
like, well,
he is.
I can do it. I can clear the board. Which, it's true. He can Force of Nature and then swipe, but then he has no Force of Natures left and no cards. And if these boombots hit him for 6 or more, yep, that's game.
That is exactly game. He needed exactly that Ragnaros to win.
And exactly those boombot hits as well. A little bit above average as far as boombot damage goes. And Silentstorm, with the Ragnaros, is going to take...
I think Hotform... Maybe he should have just held the Force of Nature and put his opponent to 14. Go up to 8, facing down 7. And then, you know, live on a prayer. Your opponent has nothing and you top deck Savage Roar.
Yeah, I mean... That was probably the best chance of winning, but now at least he knows that Silentstorm runs Rag.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because Silentstorm wins.
Won with that deck, yeah.
So Hotform is going to know for the future when he has to play Silentstorm again, possibly tomorrow in the NA qualifier number 8.
Ooh, clever. Going in for that long con.
Going in for the long con. Well, Hotform is definitely on his back foot now, and Silentstorm only has to win with one more deck, and it looks like it is going to be the mid-range Paladin. He really loves that deck.
He really does, and he finds wins with it. I mean, we're staring down the matchup that many people will say is like the reason why it's not good anymore. Patron Warriors everywhere, and Whirlwind effects tend to do pretty well against dudes.
Yep. And Hotform has Grom in his... Patron deck, which is a choice that we don't see many players go with, but it really helps against the slower matchups.
Yep. It is actually, this is one of the matchups that can help out a lot in. There do come some awkward times where the Paladin's able to outlast and set up enough taunts so you can't kill them with just 2 Frothings. You can get them really low, and then Grom can finish the job sometimes. Looks like Hotform actually keeps an Inner Rage. Maybe he's a little afraid of the aggro Paladin, which there's always the chance that, you know, Silentstorm is just like, wow, aggro Paladin's really strong. But I feel like Silentstorm's the type of guy, he's just like, he goes with what he likes, and he likes mid-range Paladin.
Yeah. And, I mean... I said it earlier, mid-range Paladin seems to be making a little bit of a comeback. It was considered unplayable for a while when Patron was at its peak, but players are starting to realize that maybe it's not so bad. I mean, you can pressure early. That's one of the strengths of the deck. Sometimes you can force the Patron Warrior to have to use their combo pieces inefficiently to deal with your early board, which can threaten, and, you know, you can pull out wins that way.
Yeah, and sometimes there's just... no Whirlwind. And your Mustard for Battle gets in a lot of damage, as it is going to this game. Of course, one of the issues with mid-range Paladin opposed to aggro Paladin is if you get this start with aggro Paladin, you might just run away with the game. But when you get it with mid-range Paladin and you have cards like Equality, Emperor, Lay on Hands in your hand, those aren't the best at closing out a game.
Yeah.
They're nice at, closing out a control mirror, but when you're just trying to kill your opponent, you don't want healing, you don't want board control, you just want to kill them.
Yeah. And Silentstorm does go face instead of trading because he knows that sort of the onus is on Hotform to trade in the early game. He realizes that the way he's going to win is by pressuring enough early on. But it just seems like Hotform's just going to have so many tools as this game goes on, and Silentstorm's got to deal with, well, he can shield a mini-bot and hero power, but it's really not putting on too much of a threat.
Yeah, this is a turn where aggro Paladin might push out a Blessing of Kings, they might push out an Abusive and do like 9 to your face, suddenly you're at 7, you're dead next turn to an Arcane Golem. Not going to happen with mid-range Paladin. It's a hero power turn.
Yep. Putting out 3 power. Yeah.
It is still, yeah, it's not much when you think about it that way, but it's enough that, like you said, Hotform might end up having to use cards inefficiently. He might eventually interrage a 1/1. He might have to use a War Song early. Stuff like that, not really where you want to be. There is a Blessing of Kings in this deck, so that's going to let him push a lot of damage in future turns. Of course, he does have to worry about Acolyte drawing extra. He has to worry about things like that. And just going to push out the Emperor, though. But he will trade, so he's going to deny Battle Rage value. I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So he actually does have quite a bit of damage in his hand. Like, if he manages to connect with True Silver, he can play True Silver Blessing King's next turn. That's 8 damage from hand. He's got 8 damage on board.
Yeah, 16, so it's not far off.
If Hotform plays Emperor this turn, then he's 1 damage off lethal. Maybe he's got an Abusive Sergeant thrown in there, and he'll win next turn. Who knows?
Just top deck South Sea deck, and it was aggro this whole time!
Yeah. He faked him out with the Defender of Argus. He does play Emperor. 1 damage off. But he can't ignore it. Because what if he has... Oh, man.
Oh, no. It's 1 damage. Not the 1 damage you wanted.
If only Light's Justice had Wind Fury.
Yeah. That's always what I've considered. I've been like, man, I wish this Light's Justice had Wind Fury.
If you look at the art, it's like a miniature Doomhammer.
Sure. If you maybe a little bit.
Humor me, Jackie.
I'll work with you here, TJ. I can see it. Yeah. I want to see him just go face.
Yeah, but he might. Get knocked out of the game.
Smork him hard. How do you get locked out?
Shield block.
There's always a way.
If he has Armor Smith.
No, he has to clear your board still.
That's easy. Patrons do that in their sleep.
To a 6/6 and a 5/5?
He's got a 1-mana Battle Rage.
No, I think Hotform's dead.
Yeah, he might be dead.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Patron. He doesn't have the Armor Smith.
This is where you're holding your breath, though, because you know that
no, if he had Patron,
yeah.
If he had Patron, maybe Patron and Armor Smith, I think was what he needed.
Yeah, well, he's gonna have to try and go for it here, and
yeah, he played Acolyte. Like that's how bad it was. That's not gonna do much.
If he had Battle Raged first for the 1 mana, he would have had enough mana for the Patrons, but
here we go. Yeah, but then you can't win.
Armor Smith.
He's got to move. Maybe Shield Slam would be fine here. If he played that. Now he has to Battle Rage, and there's no more 0-costing cards in his deck, and he can't remove that 6/6. That's it. Oh, wait, he can draw 1 more, and that's not it.
In a rage? Needs it?
He used both.
Oh, he used both.
That's it.
Wow. He smorked him.
He smorked him. Real good.
All right, well, Silentstorm with an impressive 3-0 over Hotform, and just like that, Hotform is knocked down into the third place match. Wow.
Hmm.
Hotform is one of the GEICO point leaders, so even though he has not won a feature tournament, he's been to one, and he's placed highly enough in enough opens to where he's one of the front runners to qualify for packs based off GEICO points. So that's got to be a little bit of a disappointing finish for him. He wants to juice these qualifiers for all the GEICO points that they're worth.
Yep, and he will have one more chance to get just a tiny bit more GEICO points, which could mean a world of a difference in the third place match. But next, we're actually going to have the next match between Pesty and LBYS to see who will join Silentstorm in the finals. We'll be right back with that after a quick break.